work so you can play. MiniWarGaming's Beat the Cooler Bat Rap!
Alright, we're here doing a quick 150-point game. We didn't bring commanders, neither side did. I brought 2 assassins and a squad with grenades. He brought 3 squads and a forward observer, and 2 of them have jetpacks.
Yes, and so we're not actually 100% if this is legal.
Yeah.
Or will be, but we kind of want to see the effect of not having commander, and the strength of solos. So let's get to it.
Womp, womp, womp.
I'll go first.
Here we are deployed in this overgrown jungle. The assassin over there in the squad. Assassin is all over the place. And you can't even see his little squads, but one's right there. Another
They're
one
all right
is there.
If you just come over the side, it's easy to see. There you go. There we go. You see good. What a shake.
And Flamer start off. First he's got his squad there running up to the top of the building because he does have grav packs, which let him ignore the double penalty for moving vertically there, or moving against gravity anyway. And then his other unit moves up here. It's actually just the forward observer, my mistake, moves up. This unit in the far left, they just kind of run off into the middle of the field because he wants to avoid my assassins who are creeping around. And then his other unit moves up in the middle here between those two to try and spot one of my bases, which is actually visible. So he will be able to see it, but he will have a few negatives. But he can do an active perception check, which will be +3 on top of his perception, then -1 for every 6 inches to try and spot it. And he easily does, but unfortunately for him, that's not the real base. The assassin is still out there, or at least that assassin is. The other assassin moves up, or that assassin moves up now in the beginning of the Zalantho's turn, and he jumps down those, or moves up to the edge of the building, gets ready for jumping down later. And then over here, my other assassin passes through the buildings, moving up, pretty much just trying to close the gap, because I'm an almost all melee army, and he's an all ranged army. So I was debating there about trying to run up the building, but even though the assassin can move through terrain, he doesn't ignore gravity-inducing terrain, and so running up the building would cost double movement for him, and he just won't make it. And then Matt came over to comment on us playing. But my unit moves up, hiding behind the buildings here, just trying to get as close as I can without getting spotted, because without commanders, it's very easy to break, or even easier to break than it normally is. So they kind of hide out there. And then the Reclaimer's turn begins, turn 2. He moves up just a little bit further because he wanted to spot one of my bases. He measured it out, and so now he can see number 3. And I'm trying to see if I can get the camera to show you. But he's just through there. There he is. And that's the reason that he can see. And so he does another perception check, trying to see base number 3. And he does, but he doesn't, but then he uses a point to make sure, and he still fails. So unfortunately for him, he can't tell whether that's the real assassin or not. This unit, he starts moving up to the edge here, and then he's thinking about it because he knows I'm right behind that corner, and decides to go back behind the wall rather than expose himself to the counterattack that he knows would come. And so he moves his forward observer up to try and spot my assassin base as well. I believe he does that. He might actually decide to shoot. Yep, and he decides to shoot the guy further back with his pistol. Now at the time here, it's listed as rate of fire 2. It actually isn't anymore, so it is rate of fire 1. So when you see him shooting, he can only do a maximum of 1 hit. But in this case right now he did 2. Or at least he had the option to do 2. I don't believe he actually does. So he did hit using that command point to reroll. And yeah, he does use 2. So he does a wound there and kills that guy. And I fail my morale on a 12. So that's unfortunate because my 1 unit is now broken. We use a little green dice to represent that they're broken now. And he decides with this unit to finally jump down now that he knows that they're broken and won't be able to retaliate correctly. He starts jumping down with the other units because he's going to try and move in for the kill. And so the first unit jumps off the building there. And he did have to run to do that, so they won't be able to shoot. And these guys move up just around the building because he wants to try and lure out my assassin so he can shoot him with the other unit there. Now he moves up, spreading them all out, forgetting that just because they're spread out, there's still a unit. And so if the assassin jumps in there and kills them, he'll kill the entire unit regardless of how far away they are. So he can only get up to 6 inches away from their squad leader. And we'll see how well that goes for him as the Zalantho's turn begins. So the assassin reveals himself, and he was up front there, so I was really hoping that he didn't try and check him. And the assassin then charges up, and I believe, yeah, I can just make the charge here. So I move up 8, and then I get a run of 4, because you get half your movement speed for the charge. And he charges into that guy and that unit. Now he's close combat like 14, and they're only defense 2 or 3 against this, so he gets a whole bunch of hits. I use a command point to re-roll, or I use a command point to adjust it by 1 to get 3 wounds. I use a second command point to adjust it down to a 5 because you don't get armor against his attacks, and he's strength 5. And so he easily kills the entire unit right there, and that was just Dan looking at me as he realized that that's what happened. And now this unit, being within 6, will now have to do a morale as well, and their morale is only 5. So he fails that, and he uses a command point to try and re-roll it, and he does fail it there as well. So that unit is now broken because the unit nearby was destroyed, and the assassin gets to overrun another 4 inches to jump behind the wall here to protect himself from the forward observer. These guys, even though they're broken, they can still continue to move, they just have to move away. And so they move a little bit back, and they all take shots at the forward observer, or at least a couple pot shots. But they are at -4, but there are 4 of them, so that kind of counters out. So they need a pretty good shot. They do a hit, and I don't believe they do a wound here, but he still does have to do a morale because he did get shot up, and they fail to rally as the turn ends. And then the other assassin, he moves up just behind the wall there, so if that Reclaimer forward observer tries to run, then one of the assassins will get him. Reclaimers begin their turn. The unit that is now broken moves off horizontally from either the assassin and from the guys over there, so he can still move, but he will be at a -1 before even measuring in my defense and the range. So they start firing away at the guys that are hiding there, and he definitely misses. And so that's it for him. And the forward observer, he jumps up onto the roof here, and then he decides, well, the assassin can still run through the building to get him, even if he goes up there. And so he decides to run to the edge of this building, but he realizes that the assassin can still get him if he goes there. And then he decides he's going to jump down the building, and he realizes that the other assassin is over behind the building, you can see on the bottom right there, and can run through that building and jump him if he hangs out over here. He decides, forget it, and runs out into the open anyway, because there is another squad there that will hopefully protect him. And that squad promptly runs away because they don't want to get overrun into and wiped out. And the other unit, we forgot, but he does get the chance to rally, which he fails. This unit kind of huddles together, and I realize that I can't actually move there because it would bring me closer to his unit. And so they just take a few pot shots, I believe, firing away back at him. And they get a couple hits, actually, which was certainly nice. And they do a wound, so it kills one of those guys over there. And now I do get a chance to try and rally, but my morale is only 6, so hopefully we can do that. Well, I guess I forgot to roll it. I'll probably roll it in a moment. But the assassin rushes over, charging into that combat. And he, of course, has his 2 command points. Or no, he had to run into that combat. He couldn't charge. And there's the rally, and they do actually rally on a morale of 6. So that assassin ran into combat, so he won't get to do his attacks yet. This assassin, who's hiding behind the building, reveals himself and runs into combat with this forward observer. And unfortunately for Dan, there's nothing he can do about that, other than either try and attack me back into close combat or move out of close combat, in which case I'll get a free strike at him. And now he lines up to try and spot through the building, but he didn't quite do it right, and so he can't see my unit there. And then he decides to attack because why not? He's dead for sure if he runs. He's pretty much dead for sure if he stays, so he just decides to swing away and hopefully do a hit, but Reclaimers don't really have anything for close combat against the assassins. And so when these two even try and double team the assassin, still they're definitely not going to do it, especially with the -4. The assassin begins his turn, I get a bunch of hits right off the start, and of course he doesn't get armor against my attacks, and I'm strength 5, and so those 2 are dead. And because the assassin always has the overrun rule, he gets to still do a 4-inch move even though he didn't charge that turn. And this assassin on the far side attacks the forward observer, getting a bunch of hits and getting 3 wounds and killing the forward observer. And then he gets to overrun 4 inches, moving towards the 3 guys there. Not looking good for the Reclaimers, but he does have a full squad left, so it might work for him, but I do have a squad that has even more guys left in it. And so hopefully my assassin can get in there and finish it up all by himself. So they decide that they're going to shoot the assassin, but first he wants to just adjust for no real reason other than that because he can. So they line up on the assassin and fire away, but the assassin's defense 7 base, and even firing away close combat, he has to try and re-roll it. Gets a couple hits, he does have enough now to kill the assassin, but he only does 2 wounds, and I fail my morale, but I do have a command point that I can then use to try and re-roll that, which I pass. So my assassin's down to 1 wound, and at that point, Dan does surrender.
Assassins. Well, low point games, assassins are very, very powerful, we've discovered.
Yep.
And
I wanted to try out solos instead of units, and this is what happened.
Your solos are better than mine.
A little.
At least in this kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's game without a commander is a big difference.
Yeah, if I get touched at all, I'm done.
Yep.
I think it hurt me more than it hurt you.
Yep.
And I kind of gave one free morale check for you. And that assured my defeat.
Focus on the assassin. There we go. Yeah, Reclaimers got smashed. Don't get in close combat with assassins if you play Reclaimers.
Well, if these guys had been over here instead, and would have got smashed, then you would have moved us 4 wherever. I guess he could have moved 4 over here. But no, if I would have kept him in a smart position where he couldn't have hid, these guys wouldn't have broken. They would have been able to move up and shoot.
And kill him.
And most likely kill him. I don't know.
Which is what I was expecting to happen, but then
yeah,
you were close
misinterpretation of
enough.
the rules.
Yeah.
And whole squad died.
Yeah.
Still learning here, boys. I'll get him. I actually killed him really well in our
did.
playtesting. I did, I swear.
Well, actually, that was just a good game. I mean, at the end there, it was
like... It was back and forth.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll play again eventually. Happy wargaming.